Hello, my friends, and welcome to Crimes with Cole. So, how are you guys doing today? I hope you guys all are having an amazing day. I have a wild case for you. This is the case of a woman who basically got away with murder. How? I'm not sure, but she did. She did. So, in today's case, we will be talking about Danielle Redlick and how she got away with murder. Now, Danielle Redlick was born on November 3rd, 1973 in Florida. She had received her Bachelor's of Arts from the University of Central Florida, and she worked for a few different media companies throughout her career. But whenever someone would ask her about what her job was, she was always quick to reply with a photographer, because she loved taking photos and had been working on her own little side photography business for many, many years. Michael, her husband, was an executive vice president of business operations at the University of Central Florida. And he was said to be a great guy, according to his friends and coworkers. Now, Michael had previously dated Danielle's mom, Catherine, for 3 years and married her in 1996 spontaneously in Vegas 3 months before she passed of stage 4 breast cancer. Danielle was 22 at this time, and she said that after her mother's death, she was a bartender, and Michael would come up to visit her during her shifts. And this is when she really got to know Michael as a person and found him to be exciting and knowledgeable. He was a very well-rounded guy. And from there, the two of them started having a romantic relationship. Years later, the two tied the knot and went on to have 2 children, Jaden and Sawyer. And the family lived in a beautiful home in Winter Park, Florida. The couple was known to have a toxic relationship. Danielle was not one to let things go. She was very manipulative, and she would constantly pick fights with Michael. And Michael would bite his tongue the best he could to keep peace in the household. He was regularly making comments like, "She's gonna kill my..." to his friends. The couple had decided to separate in 2018, and Michael moved out of the house. And according to Jaden, their daughter, Michael was trying his hardest to win Danielle back. He would send her good morning text, calling just to see how her day was, popping over with flowers, and really showing her that he wanted to work things out between them. And while Danielle's attention was already being taken by another man she had met on a dating app, she decided to give the relationship between her and Michael one last shot and allowed him to move back into the house. Things were great for the first few weeks. And then they turned back to arguing, fighting, throwing things at one another. On January 10th, 2019, the couple attended their son's flag football game. Many of their friends said they just seemed off. You could tell something wasn't right, but they were putting on a smile, trying not to let it interfere with their son's game. And on the night of January 11th, 2019, Jaden and Sawyer had gone to stay at their friend's house that night. Danielle and Michael had been arguing, and while Danielle was texting the kids to let them know it's best if they weren't home because of the arguing and fighting, Michael was letting them know how sorry he was that they had been exposed to that type of environment. And he loved them very, very much. And that was the last time he would be speaking to his children. Michael had been drinking because he found out about another man that Danielle had been texting and was continuing to text even after the two decided to work things out. And Michael had moved back into the home. Danielle said she threw the bottle of liquor away that Michael had been drinking, and the two were back at it when she came back into the kitchen. Michael then had attacked Danielle, slamming her back against the kitchen island, suffocating her. Danielle Redlick had stabbed her husband in self-defense, or so she claimed. When the police arrived, they walked into a beautiful home that smelt of bleach, and what they had seen when they entered the kitchen consisted of blood-soaked towels, a bloody mop head, and big 5-gallon buckets with pink-colored water. The blood smears around Michael's lifeless body made it very obvious that someone had been trying to clean up the crime scene and moved his body to do so. And if this was self-defense, why would you feel the need to clean it up? Danielle had told her children that their father had died of a heart attack, but she had told the police officers that Michael attacked her. She had grabbed a kitchen knife for protection, but Michael ripped it out of her hands. She ran down the hallway into the bathroom to hide, and Michael stabbed himself out of anger. When the police later started putting all the evidence together, they noticed that Danielle had called 911 11 hours after Michael had been stabbed. So when she woke up that next morning, she claims she checked on Michael, slipping in a pool of his blood to discover he was dead. When she called 911, she told them that she found Michael on the kitchen floor that morning after they had an argument, and he must have had a heart attack. She then changed her story, adding that Michael had stabbed himself out of anger because the two had gone into a fight, that she had grabbed the kitchen knife to protect herself. Michael ripped the kitchen knife out of her hands and stabbed himself with it while she fled for safety. With police still questioning Danielle's story, they asked her why it took her so long to call 911. And she told them that she couldn't find her phone. But investigators discovered that Danielle had been on a dating app 2 hours prior to calling 911. And she also had started to clean up the crime scene the next morning before calling 911. And even while hiding in the bathroom, Danielle could hear her dying husband moaning and groaning as he is bleeding out and still chose not to call 911. So what was the real reason why she didn't call 911? The previous year, Danielle had drunkenly attacked 2 police officers and was put on probation for it. She feared that if she had called the police, she would go back to jail because she was currently on probation at the time of the murder. This is when Danielle decided to finally tell the police the truth, or what seemed to be the closest thing to the truth. That she and Michael had gone into a fight in the kitchen, and he shoved her against the kitchen island, started choking her, and this is when she grabbed a knife and stabbed him near his left armpit, allowing her to break free of his grip and run down the hall to the bathroom in fear for her life. And while some of these details still weren't adding up, this was the closest the police were going to get. During the trial, it was discovered that Michael and Danielle had indeed gotten into a fight in the kitchen that night. Whether or not it was self-defense was still up for debate. Michael had a stab wound on his upper torso below his shoulder, and it was so deep it had hit a vein and perforated the top of his lung. He could have lived up to 2 hours. In fact, medical examiners believed he could have survived if some sort of help would have been provided and he was not left there to bleed out. During the trial, it was also noted just how toxic the relationship between the two truly was. That at one point in their marriage, the two had a domestic dispute and both needed medical treatment because of the injuries inflicted. That plastic surgery was being considered because of some of those injuries. After hours of testimony and hours of deliberating, the jury found Danielle not guilty of second-degree murder, but they did find her guilty of tampering with evidence for trying to clean up the crime scene and moving Michael's body while trying to do so. During the trial, Jaden, Michael and Danielle's daughter, had also wrote a letter to the judge asking for protection against her mother for herself and her brother. Jaden was 15 at the time of the murder, and her younger brother Sawyer was 11. Once the trial was over with, it had been 3 years, meaning Jaden was now 18 and an adult. However, Sawyer was only 14 when their mother got out. Jaden wrote a letter stating, "You may all be fooled by the incredible mask this woman presents to you all, but I am not. My father did not get away in time, and I am worried for my brother. Judge, please make some kind of stipulation that Danielle not be allowed near myself and Sawyer." The judge did not grant this request, as she could not sentence Danielle any more time for the charge of tampering with evidence. Danielle ended up receiving a 364-day jail sentence. However, time was credited for all the time she had already spent in jail during the trial. Danielle also received a year of probation and must undergo mental health treatments appointed by the judge. How wild is that? To stab your husband and wait 11 hours later to call 911, listening to him basically taking his last breath, and you're just going up to bed for the night, while your husband lays in the kitchen in a pool of his own blood. Now, I'm not here to judge, but if I was, I would say that's a cold-hearted person. But what do you guys think? Isn't that just wild? How she basically got away with murder. I mean, her kids probably aren't fond of her for what she did, but Let me know what you guys think, because I'm just, whew, my goodness. My goodness. So, until next time, please remember to be safe, and I will see you then. Bye.